media have found new reasons to predict doom and gloom for Donald Trump this fall, even as he is running neck and neck in the polls with Hillary Clinton. Now, I could be wrong about this, so don't get any ideas about using this videotape against me, but I'm a little skeptical towards some of the same media and political prognosticators who didn't give Trump a chance in the primaries, now saying he's going to lack the money and the manpower to compete effectively against Hillary in the fall. But let's first look at the facts. Politico has an interesting piece saying that Trump's staff at the end of April was 70 people. Hillary's 732, about 10 times larger. Look at the money they've spent so far. Trump, $57 million to win the Republican nomination. Hillary, $182 million to not exactly put away the Democratic nomination. Even Ted Cruz outspent Donald Trump by spending about $81 million in the primaries. And then we look at, where's Trump going to raise the money from? Of course, most of his primary campaign was self-funded, but now he needs about $1 billion, he says, and he doesn't want to sell one of his buildings unless he has to. So he's trying to hit up some of the traditional rich guys that you go to fund a general election campaign. But the New York Times checked in with more than 50 of the biggest Republican Party donors and says there is a measure of contempt and distrust against Trump that is unheard of in modern presidential politics. Maybe that's because he ran against many of them as special interests who he says were controlling the campaigns of his rivals. So I don't want to minimize the importance of having money in a general election where you're fighting 50 states at once. It's not like the sequential calendar of the primaries. And I don't want to minimize the importance of the ground game, particularly having the money for enough what's called data targeting, which a lot of people credit in helping put President Obama over the top in 2012, which Trump says he doesn't even believe in. He's not going to waste money on, maybe because he doesn't have the money to do it. And identifying your voters and getting them to the polls is probably even more important in a general election than it is in, say, Iowa or New Hampshire. But Trump, it is clear by now, is a different kind of candidate who, at least until now, hasn't had to play by the same rules. Maybe, just maybe, he doesn't need as much money as a traditional candidate, because for one thing, a lot of the money always goes to ads, and I'm sure he will have some paid commercials, but this is a cycle in which ads have had, in my view, almost no impact. Otherwise, Jeb Bush would be the nominee because his super PAC had $100 billion and spent a lot of that money on advertising. And maybe Trump doesn't need ads and money as much because he has, whether you like the guy or dislike the guy, he has this unquestioned ability to drive news cycles and to insert himself into the news cycle. Plane goes down from Paris to Egypt, an Egyptian plane that left Paris, and Trump tweets, it's clearly, or looks like, I should say, a terrorist attack. Then lets people write about Trump's tweet, and it gets debated. Did he get in too soon, and all of that. So it could well be that Trump is giving away a few percentage points by not, if he can't match Hillary Clinton's fundraising, and if he's not going to have the huge gargantuan staff that she does, his people try to turn that into an asset by saying she would run a bloated government just the way she's had a bloated campaign staff. But it just seems to me a little bit of caution is in order, because Trump is a guy, an asymmetrical candidate, an outsider, a candidate who has been more successful than anybody like him in modern politics. Maybe he doesn't need the same kind of money and manpower that a typical pedestrian senator, governor, former first lady, former cabinet member needs to get the message out. Maybe he gets the message out on his own, and maybe that's enough to inspire his people to go to the polls in sufficient numbers. Maybe not, but I would be very careful about these predictions.